Navdeep Singh. I am the Acting Policy Director at the Sikh American Legal Defense and Education Fund, the nation's oldest Sikh American civil rights and leadership organization. As I outlined in my testimony, and our other panelists have discussed, the law creates a presumption in favor of religious accommodation. However, the reality for Sikhs and others of minority faiths is a practical presumption against accommodation. By way of background, observant Sikhs are often identified by their religiously mandated articles of faith, which are central to a Sikh's religious practice and holding deep spiritual and personal significance. Of these, there are two which I would like to specifically draw your attention to. The kesh, which is the uncut hair including uncut beards, and the dastar, the religious head covering often known as the turban. It's a piece of cloth that is typically a few meters in length that is wrapped around the head. I think it's also important to note that Sikhism is an individual meditative practice, but also a highly congregational practice. But interestingly, Sikhism does not have an ordained clergy as defined by many chaplaincy protocols. So in practical terms, that means that individuals who are incarcerated are supported by members of their community, including family members, to bring materials to them. And it's important to note that many of these practices have analogs for individuals of other diverse communities, such as the long hair with many Native American practices. While DOJ and the Bureau of Prisons have had major successes in religious accommodation, there are a few primary categories that we continue to observe over the 25 years of our existence, and frankly, they have not abated. First, maintaining the kesh, allowing the uncut hair to be worn in prison. Second, treatment of the dastar, allowing it to be worn, allowing individuals to bring in the dastars for individuals to be worn, or having it simply treated with respect. Third, access to religious materials and their respective handling. Often, because these materials are in Punjabi, they are brought in by members of the congregation from local houses of worship or shipped in from congregations around the country. Fourth, dietary restrictions. Numerous individuals report barriers and resistance to accommodations to their dietary restrictions, such as accommodating a vegetarian diet and ensuring that observant Sikhs do not eat meat which is ritually sacrificed or ritually killed. Finally, harassment due to perceptions about their beliefs and articles of faith, as many Sikhs across the country experience throughout their daily lives. There are a few scenarios that demonstrate these. First, at a federal correctional institute, one individual was going to voluntarily surrender. However, it was unclear whether or not he could do so while maintaining his turban and keep it in the facility. We were able to negotiate that to be the case. There's the case of Surjit Singh versus the Arizona Department of Corrections, in which Mr. Surjit Singh had his hair forcibly cut when he was brought into detention. His turban was confiscated, and he was threatened with having his hair cut a second time, as well as taking months after the assistance of counsel to bring his turban in for him to wear. There was another complaint at a federal facility in which we have a dietary problem that is not being accommodated. And finally, there was a lawsuit that was filed just these past weeks at the Fort Dix Federal Correction Facility, in which dietary restrictions have not been accommodated. They ridicule the individual's practices and treat him with profound disrespect, including destroying his dastar. There are additional issues around language access and access by visitors, including attorneys, religious leaders, and family. Essentially, because the federal prisons don't have Sikh American chaplains or volunteers, these incarcerated individuals rely on ad hoc support by community members and their family, but security restrictions mean that you may have to remove your turban in order to enter the facility to provide this care or spend time with your family member. I would also further like to highlight the Department of Justice's Inspector General's report detailing problems within the chaplaincy service and the impact of the lack of diversity within that on providing care to individuals. Finally, at the end of our testimony, we provide a number of recommendations to uphold religious freedoms. And as we often say within the Sikh community, we are at the tip of the spear. We are a visible yet invisible minority faith. However, that means that when we make progress, it uplifts all tides. First, we recommend that there be standardized guidelines for treatment across federal and state facilities. There be additional training and education. There be increased oversight and accountability. There's increased outreach to recruit volunteers or staff from minority faiths. There needs to be an increase in education for prisoners about their religious rights. There needs to be an incorporation of truly robust and meaningful language access. There needs to be increased oversight and accountability of privately run or contracted facilities. There needs to be increased engagement with Sikh organizations. And there needs to be established accessibility guidelines that are respectful for visitors from the Sikh community. In conclusion, I thank the Commission for taking on this important topic and providing us from SALDEF, the Sikh American Legal Defense and Education Fund, with the opportunity to speak to you today.